Today on the Xtreme channel, the statue is going to be the center of attention both literally and figuratively. Literally, because if I move him a little bit too far to the left or too far to the right on the table, pretty sure the table will flip up. Second, he's actually a little too heavy to move. Third, most of you would prefer to look at this amazing piece of art other than my ugly mug. Well, except for you. Welcome to the Xtreme channel, where we talk about extreme collectibles. We not only talk about them, but we put them right in front of us. And this may take the prize for the most extreme collectible I've ever had on this table. It is extremely exciting. Besides the traditional review stuff, we're going to talk about, can a base overpower the character in the middle? What do you do when you have a statue that weighs more than your wife? But I'm super excited to introduce to you a custom, private, unlicensed commission Aquaman Diorama. This is unbelievable, guys. I kind of let the shark out of the bag. Not cat, but shark. See what I did there? Thank you, I'm here all week. This is unbelievable, and it's not just about the massive size and presence, but there is so much cool stuff going on in here. And I ordered this simply for the fact that it was extreme, and that's how I roll. But now that I have it, my God, I am so excited. I'm glad that there's a table here. But before we dive in and start talking about this piece, check this out. As a thank you to you guys, we're giving away these two exclusive Mortal Kombat statues from Pop Culture Shock Toys. We've already given away this Sub-Zero. It's being shipped to the winner of the 15,000 sub giveaway. Up for grabs at 17,500 subs is this exclusive Scorpion statue. First thing you need to do is make sure you've liked this video, you subscribe to the channel, and you've hit that bell notification. Second thing is, we're going to pick random videos. This is one of those random videos, and insert this segment somewhere. You need to make sure you comment on that video. We are going to pick a random comment from one of said videos, and you will be the winner of this Scorpion statue. Alright, so let's dive into this review because there's so much to cover with this guy, starting with the concept of this piece, which is obviously where it shines. This is an incredible idea, even more hard to execute, which we'll talk about in design. So first of all, as I said, this is a diorama, and honestly, it's showcasing a lot more stuff than Aquaman, which we'll talk a little bit more about in a minute. At the bottom here, the base is primarily composed of water, which is so cool. And not only is it composed of water, but there is tons of aquatic organisms, most of them scary as hell, all around him. We're using really fancy words like organisms, but most of them are fish. I guess there is a mammal, there is a killer whale. We have a huge nasty shark, and he is on the middle, actually on some land that is presumably in the middle of the ocean. He is standing on top of a crab, and he is standing there very king, very majestic-like. Now this is the comic version of Aquaman, which we're going to come back to, and behind him are two other giant creatures. First you have a giant, what I would call a sea dragon, and then a giant badass looking seahorse. I never thought I would think a seahorse is badass looking, but this one definitely is. And the waves are splashing around him. As I said, he's very king-like, in a very king-like pose, holding his trident, very serious, very stern. And I love it. And the reason why I love it, you know, recently I did a video on top 10 portrayal of comic book characters. And Jason Momoa made the top 10. Now, while this clearly isn't modeled after Jason Momoa, this is the comic version, I thought Jason Momoa did a great job bringing badassery to Aquaman, and I think this statue does the exact same thing. Not only does he have a badass presence himself just in the middle, but everything around it makes him look more powerful, and not only that, but it really encompasses Aquaman's powers. He talks to fish, he controls the waves. This is unbelievable. I think the big problem most people will have with this when it comes to concept is that it looks like the base overpowers and overshadows the character. It does. There's no way to say that it doesn't, but because I'm not the hugest fan of Aquaman, but I did want a 1/4 scale Aquaman, I love how it encompasses, like I said, his powers and makes him more badass. So for me personally, while I'm not really a big fan when the base takes over the statue, I do like it here. And with concept, I think size is a big deal despite the fact my wife tells me it's okay if it's not as big. I'm actually ordering new shelving and creating a new display with all my 1/4 DC pieces with the exception of the XM Samurai line. And that shelving arrives in a few weeks and he's actually going to go on that, but I think he'll be the piece that you're automatically drawn to. Now, if you want to see what that looks like, make sure to check out the Xtreme Channel Facebook page. The link is in the description below. Make sure you not only go check that out, but make sure you hit the like button as well. Then you'll see all the exclusive stuff I post on there and not on YouTube. Now, for me, because of those reasons, I love the concept. It's even better than the original renders. So for me, I do give this a concept of 5 out of 5. However, I definitely think there will be some people that are turned off simply because there's too much going on. Now, as I said, the size helps with the concept. I think it's a negative with the design. But before we dive into all that, let's check out the unboxing and assembly. Arguably, two of the biggest boxes I've ever had for a statue. Now with that, one of them did have an amazing art box, and as you can see, this is taken from the new 52 Aquaman. That's what this is based off of, who I like. He's a little bit more badass. Huge boxes with the custom black foam, multiple layers, multiple straps. Everything was secured extremely well. We're going to talk a little bit about breakages, but the way they packed it was actually pretty well done. Now, before I forget, because this is so big, we have got to measure it.
That's what she said.
All right, the widest point, which is kind of hard to determine because it's kind of in the middle of the statue, I'm going to say is damn near 31 and a half, 32 inches, in that range. Don't worry, I'm still here. The tallest point, which is probably his trident, which you can move down a little bit, is 36 inches or so. And then the deepest point is probably on the other side where the shark is. Hang on. Hang on. The deepest point is probably 26 inches. And that's from this shark to the middle of the back. Another unique thing is because they don't have a bottom base sticker, it did come with a COA, or Certificate of Authenticity. Kind of neat. Now, I will not display this with it, but... Now, speaking of that, this was shipped from China, and you gotta wonder, did anything break? Well, I do have a few small minor issues. First is right up here, this piece of wave broke off. Now, I haven't repaired it yet. It is an extremely clean break, so it'll be an easy fix, because I actually have to move this twice. I have to move it off the table for a few weeks. I'm actually gonna put him in a temporary spot. He's gonna go where Devastator is from Imaginarium Arts. I have him on order, who's probably almost a little bit bigger than this statue. And then once the shelving comes in, I'm going to move him again. So because I'm going to disassemble it to move it each time, I'm going to wait until he's in his final resting place to repair everything. And when I say everything, I had another break. Thankfully, it was a clean break right here on his glove. Extremely clean break, will be an easy fix with the glue. Also, one of the things you're going to notice, the shark doesn't seem to sit exactly flush on the back, which is not really a big deal because you can only see it if you're looking at it from the back. So I can get over that. And then right now, Aquaman's foot is slightly levitating over this. And again, that could just be the temperature fluctuation. I think it's actually 20 degrees here today. So we'll see over time. It'll probably sink in a little bit more. But I was just extremely careful with this because, as I said, this weighs definitely over 100 pounds. I'm guessing it's 120 to 140 pounds. It's just massive and heavy. Which brings me to the size and the weight of it. As cool as I think this is, and as accurate as I think the scale is, other than the huge scary-ass seahorse, it is too big. It's just too big.
Hey, that's what she said.
This really limits the displayability. It's not just the size, it's the weight. I'm actually going to have to redo the shelving a little bit to actually have this rest on 2 shelves at once, just so I feel a little bit more secure. However, with everything that's going on, you have the waves coming off, you have the spines on the sea dragon, the teeth on the shark and the whale, the horns on the seahorse. I am shocked there wasn't more broken pieces. So I actually do give them a lot of props for the packaging with such a heavy piece. Probably honestly because the UPS people couldn't flip it over too much. There are no switch outs on this, nor would you really want any, with one exception. So it did come with this chain right here, and it is pliable, it is bendable. It's supposed to go from his belt to his trident. I don't dig that. I am not going to use it. This is actually going back in the box. Now, he does have a mixed media chain around his neck that is optional, but I kind of like it. And then he has another sculpted necklace that you will see. But otherwise, what you see is what you get. Now, other than the base, the Sea Dragon is probably the heaviest piece. It does set into a huge key and a huge rod, but I am worried over time there may be some leaning issues simply because of the massive weight. And I've said this many times, I have a ton of huge elaborate pieces. The more elaborate you go, the more likely it's not going to be perfect. And I think that's the case here. However, I don't think there's anything that's a make or break deal. So for as elaborate as it was and the end result, I give it a 4 out of 5 on the design. I think it's done very well. And I like the fact they didn't go with too many switch outs. I think the thing that'll bother me the most is if this doesn't eventually sit flush. But again, I'm just being very careful with it right now. So let's dive into the paint and sculpt of this piece, and I am blown away. Even my wife, who, as you guys know, has recently gotten to painting statues, she was really impressed with this. And some of the initial pictures I saw didn't really do it justice. So I'm going to do a video for you guys. Normally I would like to do just close-up photos, but I think HD video will give you a little bit better feel, even though it won't do the piece justice. All right, let's dive in because he is just incredible. I want to start with the water here. So parts of it are a translucent resin, and I think they did a good job. The sculpt is phenomenal. I really like what they did with the sculpt. I like it better than the paint. I like this transparent effect they have down here. They added some blue highlights. The wave caps here, the white caps, could have been better. I think there should have been a little bit more transition. It almost would have been cool if they would have put like a crystalline effect on it. There's a few defects, 1 or 2, not very many, which with such a large sculpted piece of translucent resin, that's pretty incredible. I really like the rocks jutting out of the water, how they're kind of pushing up, almost like he's making it rise. There's this great speckled white that's barely mixed in with this different gray transition color. The sculpt is very nicely done. There's some more of that speckled color. Looks fantastic. I think they did a really nice job with that. The shark has a few inaccuracies, but again, remember this is a comic. So first of all, his eyes don't look the best, but they should have been rolled white with his mouth open. I like the color on his skin. It's not as leathery or as textury as you typically see in a shark, and you don't see too much of his gill. His gills are right back there. At first, I didn't like how elongated the nose was, but it's really grown on me. And I like this transition to the white and then to the gums. And I think they did something really smart on the inside here. It almost looks like his mouth is very cavernous. It goes very deep. But instead of having it where it just stops, they put some of that translucent water in there. And you're going to see some black spots on here. That's not the imperfections. That's just part of the black foam it came in. I haven't cleaned this off yet. But the gums look great. It doesn't have as many teeth as I would like, but the teeth are done very well. Look at that. They look like they're really coming out. Recently eaten something bloody. And moving over to the counterpart on this side, Willie, who apparently was freed. Same comments about the eyes. Not a big fan, but you typically aren't zooming in on that. Willie's skin looks great. Again, it could have used a little bit more leather texture. The inside of the mouth is phenomenal. I think they did a great job. And the transition to white on the bottom. And then right above Willie, probably my least favorite part is the swordfish here. And I don't like it for 2 reasons. 1, he's so small. And 2, he looks really worried. He looks like Aquaman's about to kick his ass. So I wish almost there was, a way to remove him. But it's not bad by any means. He's just my least favorite part. And even though he's kind of goofy looking, so is the crab, and I really like the crab. First, I love what they did with the skin, both with the texture on it and the colors. And again, he looks a little worried, or maybe he's pissed because Aquaman's stepping on his shell. And the shell itself looks great. It's kind of this off-white color, and there's almost some hints of yellow or orange in there under certain lights, which kind of match the crab himself or even some of the other yellow parts of the statue here. And then let's check out the seahorse. I wasn't digging a seahorse. A giant seahorse can't be that scary or menacing, but this one kind of is. I love how it kind of has this exoskeletal structure. Even with almost looks like a crown on top, and then just he looks pissed and badass. And the color, when I didn't have him on the statue, I wasn't digging it, but I do dig it how it blends with the other colors. You know, a little bit off gold on the Sea Dragon we're going to look at, the gold on Aquaman's uniform. Pretty cool. And then the Sea Dragon, which other than Aquaman I think is the star of the show, which ironically I think is the only fictitious creature here. Look at the colors on this. So you have this dull gold color, and then it transitions to like this aquamarine that mixes with this green on the spikes and fins on the back. This bumpy texture on the dragon itself. And then the dragon has a very serpentine, dragon-like face up here. Man, they just did a phenomenal job with this. And even on the inside of the mouth, there's a moist effect towards the back of the tongue and underneath the tongue. I love the jagged teeth, how symmetrical they are. Almost like a beak-like on the front. The eyes are very piercing. And I would say he's the star of the show, but damn, Aquaman looks great. So first, his boots and pants are all one uniform, and it's this really dark, deep green. Has some black shadowing in his tremendous muscles. I mean, there's some solid anatomy, which if you think he's, you know, a superhero in the ocean, that makes sense. You even see like some folds around these seams. This looks phenomenal. It almost looks not sculpted. It looks like fabric or mixed media. Huge fan of that. The trident looks okay. It's a different color gold, and I like that. It doesn't look real. It does have a small plastic effect to it. I wish that could have been done a little bit different. His gloves are a darker kind of texture, darker green as well. Look like, I'm trying to think of the best way to describe it, almost like workman's type gloves. It's hard to get a good shot of these. Some folds in them. I like the closed fists. I think it gives them commanding presence. The belt on the middle too, I wish this looked more, maybe a little bit more metallic, I think would have helped. But you know, the pants look amazing, and then his outfit, his shirt looks great. I love this scale-like pattern. And then there's the mixed media necklace, and then those jewels in the other necklace are actually fully sculpted in. His portrait, the hair, this particular sculptor usually does hair like this. I think it looks good for Aquaman. You know, it's like, do I want to make it wet looking? Do I not? I like the blonde and the dark highlights together. And his face, so stoic, so serious, staring straight into your soul. And honestly, his facial hair looks like real facial hair. I like that a lot. It is a different color than part of his eyebrows and hair. So again, his hair is dyed from the sun. And he has this reddish, tannish look on him. Very stoic, very serious. I can see how some people wouldn't like this. It almost looks like he has a little bit of makeup on. But to me, it's like being out in the elements and the weather. And look at the detail on that. Fantastic paint. And I think the sculpt is phenomenal as well. There's so many good things about this. All right, so paint, as we talked about, incredible. Definitely could have done a little bit better. Like I said, I wish they would have done a little bit more with the shark mouth, maybe some stuff around the teeth. But I love Aquaman. I think Aquaman pops. This makes it really come to life from the comics. The water's very good. Not the best water I've seen. I like the rock. I think the paint's a 4 out of 5 on this. Doesn't look like it's professionally painted, but it is damn good factory paint. Sculpt on this piece is incredible. Aquaman, I didn't think he'd be my favorite part. I thought I'd like the shark better. I thought I'd like the sea dragon better. I like them all equally. They're fantastic. Even the crab is pretty cool, and some of the detail you saw on that. The water is phenomenal. The rocks. I think the sculpt on this, honestly, is a 5 out of 5. I'm not saying it's a perfect sculpt by any means, but it is just so cool, and every time I look at it, you see more and more. Now it's time to talk about value for this piece. So this was a hefty price tag, and not just because shipping was almost $1,000. But the piece itself, as you can imagine, was right around $1,500. You're a little under $2,500 all in for this piece, and they made 45 of them. Now, when we talk about value, we always want to think about resale value. The problem with resale value on this, if I was to even ship it locally, minimum, I would say $500. So I'd have to get $3,000 to break even. With also with such a large piece and such a large price tag, you're not going to have a lot of buyers wanting this. I take that back. You're going to have a ton of people that want this, but people that can actually execute a place to display it and shell out $3,000, that's a different story. I do think this is the best quarter scale Aquaman ever made. To be fair, it's the only one I've ever owned, but I do think it's the best one ever made. You know, honestly, recently, believe it or not, I was toying with the idea, what if I got rid of all my quarter scale DC pieces? I honestly don't think that's an option anymore. So I think for this, I think it's incredibly unique. I think it's worth every dollar, but I don't know if I could get my money back. So I'm just going to put the value at a 3 out of 5 because, like I said, I believe it's worth every dollar I paid, but down the road, resale value is definitely a concern. So does the statue have the X factor? Despite a few issues, a few inaccuracies, this is going to be a piece whether people like Aquaman or not think is cool. My wife was looking at this statue in detail. She's rarely done that. And I think that speaks leagues because let's face it, she has great taste. So with that, this definitely has the X factor. Remember, it's not a cumulative score, but this is a 5 out of 5 statue. This is amazing. This is a piece that will draw attention. This is a piece that I am super excited to have on this table, other than the fact that I have to move it twice in a little bit. It is the coolest Aquaman I've ever seen. Very excited to have him in my collection. So again, as I said earlier, now is your time to chime in. Let me know, if you had the space and you had the funds, would you buy this? Yes or no? And then you can also talk about my mom and some other stuff if you want to. But be careful, she could kick your ass too. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Really exciting time. If you like stuff like this and you haven't subscribed, 60% of you haven't, hit that Mr. X logo, the bell notification. I drop content every single day like this. You can check out some of the other content in this custom playlist. Talk to you tomorrow. Take care.